Hey, I'm Owen.
Hi, I'm Suzana.
And welcome back to, we're fully out of flashback phase.
Yeah, at last.
Back to, where these, the 3D model once again helps us out a little bit.
Yeah, I love it.
Shave some time off. Have you noticed that these pages are going a little faster again?
Yeah, immediately.
Good. I'm really glad.
It's a lot less to think about when I can just, actually snap it into the position I need it.
Yeah.
And then I can just take the screenshot from there and keep going.
Something I noticed, I guess especially with scenes where a character is sitting in an object that connects him to the background, there are some scenes where you can kind of skip doing a background entirely if the character isn't necessarily grounded to the background in some way.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Eli is in a chair, a full-backed chair that once the chair is in, you kind of need to draw the window behind him.
Yeah.
So pretty much every panel Eli is in can't really have a lack of a background, or else it'll start to look like the window totally disappeared and he's in front of the wall.
Yeah.
Really you can only do that kind of I guess that suspension of disbelief that the background is still behind them when they're not physically grounded to the background.
Yeah.
At least with the style that we do toy in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess that since both of these people are sitting in chairs, you've kind of been pressed into having to do a full background for most panels.
Right. And especially on some of these panels where we're looking at both of them in the moment, I need to put the background in order to ground how far apart they are.
Right.
In some spaces, I can get away with not doing a background if the sake of, they're being very close.
Right.
If they're very close to each other, then I don't have to have a background, because you can actually just believe the background is there.
Right.
And just, instead of having to ground them and their space and distance from each other, I can just have that be believed.
Right. You did in a couple panels, especially because Liam's chair is, I think, a little less immersion breaking, that when the full room behind him isn't visible, it's not wait, what happened? You know what I mean? But so I did notice that, there's a couple panels without a full background behind Liam, but especially with Eli, and especially when both of them are in a panel, the full background, at least for the kind of style we go for with this comic, the full background needs to be present. But I guess I wanted to ask, now that we're back in a scene that does use the model that I made, it goes as fast as it would otherwise. Right.
It absolutely has been a lot faster, as fast as it was before when we were doing that on the regular pages.
Yeah.
The second we switched to having to do the flashbacks, not only did the backgrounds take longer because I had to sketch them fully, it was also the time that I had to spend researching beforehand.
Right, yeah.
So that was even hours not recorded of me just having to go to Google and research things in an area.
Of course.
Having to find angles that match to it, and then sometimes having to find an angle that actually shows exactly what I want, and then still having to guess.
Right, exactly, yeah. But you found that now that we're back in this room, not only just compared to the last time we used the model, but compared to a page that maybe you could have done easier backgrounds for.
Right.
How's the timing compared to that?
I found it to be really fast, a lot faster than it had been.
Okay, cool.
No complaints. It was a lot easier to do it this way again.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Which is, we have a couple more pages in this scene. We're moving into another space soon that probably would benefit from me modeling it.
Right.
I have one last push on another project that I'd like to finish up early this week. That as soon as that's done, I'm gonna settle in and maybe have more to talk about next time we do this about my continued adventures in 3D modeling. But yeah, I'm definitely that's next on my list of things I really want to do.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for that because I really like seeing the 3D models.
Yeah.
I like being able to see these environments actually converted into a 3D space.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It is already really fun just to even draw them sometimes, to be able to visualize them from how I usually think about them and be able to just put them on paper.
Yeah.
I like being able to visualize it in just a panel, but when you give me a 3D room and I can just walk around in it basically, it's a lot more fun.
That is very your, I don't want to say aesthetic. It is very, like, your interest, like, to be able to convert things to 3D and then, like, rotate them and look at them. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's my brain's preference.
I like that. It's fun. I'm excited to make it for you. I hope you end up liking it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm very excited to get into it. I've been playing with Blender off and on since making the model for this. And even since I haven't touched making a room model in a while. I was playing a little bit with, like, doing, like, very, very easy kind of builds, like trying to make, like, a torso or, like trying to use the mirror tools and stuff like that to make 3D models that weren't really super important to anything in particular, just trying to teach myself the UI.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I haven't listened back the videos that we made while I was trying to do the models in the first place, but just, like, remembering some of the stuff I said.
Yeah.
Like, spending, like, a week in Blender has made such an enormous difference, actually. Like, I think one of the things I was really confused about when I was trying to, like, I had made the 3D model in Sweet Home, and then I ported it into Blender, basically just to remove the textures and stuff, and to kind of merge it all into one object that could be easily rotated and clip.
Right.
And then I think I needed to scale it down because Sweet Home exports it as being very enormous.
Yeah.
I think the dimensions that you put it in are real world dimensions where it's like, if you make a wall 11 feet long, it technically should only be 11 feet. But once it goes into Blender, for some reason, it exports it to being 3 times as big or something insane like that.
Yeah.
And so
I think it came out to being, I think it was like 30 feet. And it's like,
30. Oh, so it is about a 3 times scale for whatever reason.
Yeah. Not sure why it did that. But
no, it really, I don't know. It would seem like it would be in its best interest to actually preserve feet to feet. Do you know what I mean? Because it is I think a tool intended for architects to use. But for whatever reason, it really made everything very large. So I was trying to put the model into Blender to scale it down and then to do some, like, cleanup on it, but found that doing that really exposed the bad geometry on some of the pieces of models that I hadn't made myself personally.
Yeah.
That work very well in the context that they're intended for, but once you export them through 2 different programs, they come out looking like they have 6,000 faces. Yeah. Every face has, like, a very high contrast shadow cast on it if it's not the immediate face that's facing directly to you. Yeah. So I've learned a lot. Since the dark times. It was actually, like, only a couple weeks ago, but I've learned how to merge vertices so I can reduce the number of faces. I've learned how to decimate geometry to make it have less vertices overall. There's you can have Blender calculate it and try to do its best to, like, keep the shape as much as possible. Yeah. But honestly, for what we're using it for, I can literally have it decimate some geometry down to being otherwise, like, unrecognizable, but you're just using it as a sketch anyway, so it really does not need to be like, if I were exporting these objects, if I were making a video game, let's say, you wouldn't want to just rely on Blender to try to turn your objects, your meshes, into the most simple version of itself it possibly could, because it would look bad. Yeah. But if it's just for sketching, it doesn't matter if it looks bad. Yeah. Because nobody's going to see it. It's just for you to see.
Yeah, it is basically a sketch.
It is, yeah. So I learned how to do that, which I think will be super helpful. I learned also how to just build. Yeah. So I feel way more confident about building a kitchenette. Do you know what I mean? I know it's just, like, really simple cubes and stuff, and I've learned, like, how to extrude a surface to make it taller or wider, you know what I mean? This kind of stuff. So,
a lot of the important little things that help with modeling.
For sure. And when my goal is rather simplistic, like making a fridge is not, it's not going to be hard.
Just kind of some shapes.
It was so overwhelming to me to even, like, consider when I first opened Blender, and I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. But I've made some pretty, compared to, like, a fridge, not, like, I wouldn't say that I'm making anything super impressive by any means, but I've made things that compared to a fridge are way more complex now, you know what I mean? So I'm pretty confident that now going into this, I have a better grasp on how to make it, one, better optimized, so it doesn't look like insanity
Yeah.
the second you put it in clip. And then 2, I don't know, I'll be able to make a lot of the custom pieces a lot easier. I won't have to go looking for some, a chair that looks close enough to the kind of chair you drew before.
Yeah, something like Eli's chair.
Yeah.
Where,
I could so easily make Eli's chair now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you see in the sketch it's like a weird small shape, but now you could actually make the big
very easily too. Yeah, it would be very simple for me to make Eli's chair now. If I could go back now and make this model, I could make you the bookshelf and put all the books on it super easily too.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It was good for what it was. But but now with the next scene, my original problem making Eli's office was that since I was unconfident making the objects and the props myself, I was the model was slightly not good to use. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it required a lot of like extra steps to make it suitable.
Yeah.
But now I since I'm more confident making the props themselves, I can now more confidently make a whole 3D model, make it match, make it look like it. Now I think I can very confidently make a perfect match.
Yeah. I would say very easily. I did work a little bit with Blender too. I practiced with it on just making like a small simple model.
We made Tip Tap.
Yeah, I made Tip Tap in 3D.
Tip Tap is the bat that he's one of the characters on the Rory and Friends show that Rory the lion is from. And Tip Tap is the bat. Sylvia has a doll of him in a couple scenes. Yeah. And she's like flapping its wings around a little bit.
I basically made the doll that she has. Yeah. Because I figured I should try something very simple instead of trying to leap into like doing a full human or character.
Something. Yeah, exactly.
I know about myself, I'm going to be way too particular about it. Yeah. So I just did a basic sketch of Tip Tap, and then I went into Blender and hard mode tried to learn how to just use it and make Tip Tap.
It came out good. I should put that on the Patreon, actually. I think I will. Yeah. I totally forgot to do that.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
Absolutely.
I figured out shaping him entirely. I know now that I should have started with less vertices at the start.
Sure.
But, it's a learning process.
Right.
I also used individual pieces, whereas I could have used one full mold and actually worked from that. Right. But,
it's a learning experience, yeah.
Exactly.
So not only have I gotten more familiar with the UI, and I can show you some things that I've learned since even we did that. Yeah. Since even you made Tip Tap. I'm just super confident, like, being able to make props that identically replicate the scene you've already drawn for the next scene. Yeah. I feel really good about it. And then also, now going into it, if you say, hey, this part's not working, I know better now how to fix it. Yeah. So
I think it'll be a lot easier. And like I said, I can always help with little parts of it too.
Yes, exactly. And then you can also help me too if there's something in particular that I don't know how to do.
Yeah, we'll probably be able to, between the two of us, be able to model the entire room that we're going for.
I think so too.
I think you'll be able to get most of it, but like any time that you ever needed like extra help and
I think the good thing is I could probably sometimes I'm a little overconfident in what I can estimate, but I think based on how comfortable I've gotten with Blender so far and how simple a lot of these shapes are even going to be and how imperfect they can be while still being very helpful to you. Yeah. I'm pretty confident I can probably get the whole room modeled in like a day or two.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. The room itself that we're going to be going into next has a lot of little pieces. Yes. But you've seen how little I actually need before I can get a baseline of what I need.
Yeah, I'll probably mostly just do, because I know one of the very first things we talked about when we were doing these is like rigid objects. Right. Were the ones that give you the most trouble. I'll probably like stay away from like doing like curtains or blankets or anything like that. Since those are less rigid, they give you less trouble. Yeah. I probably won't do those so much. And also I haven't learned soft objects in Blender yet.
I think that's fine. Most of the soft objects that you would find in a room are very easy for me to infer.
That's what I mean, because they're almost organic in the way that you draw them.
I would think like curtains you might be able to just drape some fabric straight down. Like, all you would need is, like, a sheet and then just kind of wobble it.
I'll probably do is I'll focus on all the rigid objects first.
Yeah.
And then I will maybe take that as an attempt to experiment on soft objects.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, I think, it'll be fun to try it out. Yeah. And then if I'll go into it with the knowledge that if I fail, you don't need it as much. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be totally fine. But I'll probably do most of the rigid objects that might otherwise give you any trouble. Like, I can't remember if there's, like, vases or anything like that, but that type of stuff.
There's little vases, there's candles, and I think... I don't know that it's going to be relevant because I haven't really thought about where in the room each of the spaces are. Mm-hmm. But I will say that some of the most annoying pieces tend to be like wooden chairs.
Okay.
Rigid chairs.
Well, those are definitely easy for me to do.
Yeah.
So...
Especially, like, some of the designs that I've put into the comic itself are... They tend to be based on something that I saw a long time ago, and I probably don't have the reference for anymore.
Yeah,
which is a shame because I've just been referring to my old pages with them, instead of referring to the original reference, because I just no longer have it.
Right. Yeah, like when we first design the space, you then go researching for furniture, find something that's cute, save a bunch of pictures of it in different angles, put it in a folder, and then suddenly. It's like 4 years later, you've revisited the same space like multiple times, but that folder is no longer present on your computer. Yeah.
Maybe it never was sometimes, because sometimes I also just like go, it's a chair. I probably don't.
I got this. Yeah, I don't need to save it. Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Past self, you should have known better.
Well, fortunately, chairs, I think, are within my wheelhouse now. I can make a chair. Yeah, I can definitely make a chair. And honestly, I think chairs are some of the easiest stuff for me to make.
I feel like chairs are so made for 3D that like you could so easily model just like a rigid object like that. Yeah. It's when you're drawing more organically more often, you tend to run into like, I have to draw this like rigid shape at a different angle, and then your brain like wants to try to supply some kind of softness to it, which like you can get around that with like perspective lines on tables and stuff, but on a chair you can't do it because it has the soft angles.
It has so many different like but those directions and faces and stuff.
Those soft angles aren't soft enough.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. I'm very excited to do the chairs in this scene. I'm really excited to push myself to actually do the props. You know what I mean? Because, I was totally fine just saying, like, I'll just throw some props in, these are free to use, and you don't need them fully rendered anyway. You can just, now you just see, like, how tall they'll look or whatever. But I'm actually really excited to push myself to do it. Yeah. I think I'll do a good job. Yeah. I will confidently say, I guess we'll come back to it in a couple updates and I'll let you know if I think I actually did a good job or not. I might eat those words, but when we come back to it later, I'll let you know. But I think right now I'm optimistic. Yeah. That I will do a good job. Well, fingers crossed.
I think that you will actually do a great job.
Thank you.
I'm pretty confident in it.
I appreciate that.
And I think like a lot of it is going to be benefited by the fact that we have seen this room at many angles. You'll be able to see multiple.
If usually we're looking up references to put into the comic, right? Now the comic will be a reference. Yeah. For me, which is kind of interesting to think of it that way. But given that is the case in these circumstances, I have a lot of references of this scene. Probably more than we had references of the individual pieces.
Yeah.
Right?
Very easily.
Because usually, like, you see something and it's like only one picture of it exists, and really it's only the front, and you have to, like, intuit the back or whatever. But I have a front and back of almost everything in this room. Yeah. That's been already drawn. Yeah. So I don't think there's any angle of this room that we haven't seen. So there's nothing I have to, like, invent, I think. And even if I did have to invent it, it's pretty easy to invent in 3D. Yeah. But yeah, it's a very well-documented space. I think I will... it will be very easy to match it.
Yeah.
And now knowing what I know about Blender, I'm pretty confident that I will be able to.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I think it'll be an interesting change of pace. Mm-hmm. I like when the comic pushes us to do something new like this, because I feel like I thrive when I'm learning a totally new thing. And I really only when it's new.
Yeah.
The second something like is kind of old hat to me, it's instantly like, oh my god, this again.
Bored of it.
Bored. So
I've already been to them all.
After 5 minutes, I was like, let's go. I really thrive best, I think, when we come to one of these things where it's like, I get to learn something completely new from scratch. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this one.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. I like seeing what you make, so.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Ditto, the feeling's mutual.
Aw.
I'm really excited to see how you get use of something that is more fully rendered than what you've used so far.
I think I'm going to have so much fun with it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be so fast, which I'm looking forward to.
I love fast.
Especially because this room in particular, because you have said we've drawn it multiple times now.
Yes, yeah.
Every time it has been so slow for me.
Has it really?
I've had to check over and look over every single detail in it to make sure it's consistent. And I can't ignore the background on a lot of the scenes that it's been in.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of pieces. There's a shelf on the wall that has stuff on top of it. There's the fireplace that has stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
There's an entire set of shelves on the floor that has stuff on top of it.
Wow.
And then there's 4 different paintings on that wall. And then there's also wall hangings on the other wall and coats and just anything and everything in that room.
Do you really notice that when we do pages within the flat that that it takes you significantly longer than most other people?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because I have to keep it very consistent because that's their living quarters. It's their living space. It's exactly where they need to be grounded as characters.
Sure.
Because it is a lot of an environment built by them.
Sure.
It needs to be the most consistent. Which, I mean, up to a point, I've gotten away with, like, adding things. Yeah. Because each time that we've seen it, like, slowly things have been added. Slowly things, like, will be acquired and added to a space that you live in. But now it's pretty much filled out exactly as much as it's going to be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it's packed. Like, the most I guess I could get away with now is them being messy. But
right, yeah. Well, I really hope that, well, you know, even if it doesn't make the process like super fast.
Yeah.
Even if it's still a little slow going, I hope that it'll at least shave off a significant amount of time.
I think it will. Only because, like, I've already seen the benefits of this room.
Sure. Like,
and this has the bookshelf that has me having to refer to the previous pages to see how the books are lined up.
Sure.
Or refer to a previous page about the windows or anything.
Right.
Now I can actually just go based off this model and get most of it immediately.
Sure.
I don't have to think much on it because all the rigid objects are there.
I'm really glad. Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Well, in the meantime, we're not there yet. In the meantime.
Yeah.
We are...
Post-spoiler alert?
I don't know if it's a spoiler.
It's not really much of a spoiler.
I mean, you have to figure. We will eventually go back to their flat.
I didn't think we were ever going to see it again.
No, the comic ends here.
Oh, no.
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about on this page. We kind of get to snap back to a little bit of a punchline.
Yeah.
Which feels good.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how, you know, when we do these scenes that are kind of emotionally heavy, and, you know, there's a lot of, like, seriousness to them, and, you know, there's exposition into the background of some characters, the backstory of some characters, and for the most part, it's really just about fleshing the characters out and giving some context for the way that they are, right? Yeah. I notice, and I was curious to ask you too, I noticed that I feel more vulnerable when we do scenes like this. And so for me, there's a lot of joy in being able to come back to something that's a little funny. Yeah. Or at least that's a little bit of a punchline. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it used to be the case that every page we did, I tried to end on a joke. Yeah. Right? This page contains a joke before it moves on. Do you know what I mean? But I I used to be very adamant about including that, and I think that doing it helps me feel less vulnerable when we do scenes like this. I wanted to know, do you feel the same way when we get to things like this?
I think so. I think there's a terminology for that I fail to come up to right now.
Sure.
Where if you have a little bit of relief in the middle of some tension, it can actually increase the tension. But sometimes that little bit of relief is like the breath of fresh air that you need in order to not feel too weighed down by something.
Sure.
The subject that they talked about is very heavy. Sure. And, I felt very heavy after drawing it. Sure. And I did feel very vulnerable for that, kind of emotional turmoil it kind of puts you in. It does put you in a little bit of a space of, you overthink the actual process of it. Yeah. You worry about the characters, or you worry about, the reception of it, if it's going to carry across. It. Yeah. Yeah, how someone's going to react to it, if, it's going to affect someone the same way that it affects you, or if it's going to be misunderstood. Sure. Or in the case of, that page with Riva, when she found out that she was pregnant, and Eli's reaction, and then you see him say she loved you, and it goes to the last time you see her, and then it just, she's not going to be in the comic anymore, right? I felt very emotional, and I felt very hurt by the end of that page. So it is actually kind of nice to come back to a page where it's okay, I get to have Liam being a little sarcastic boy again. And it does feel better to come back from a vulnerable place like that to go into something that's humorous instead. Yeah. And you do kind of feel that relief of well, at least, he's still not bothered. Sure.
I wouldn't say he's not bothered. I think Liam deals with trauma and with pain kind of the same way I do. Yeah. Which is why it feels good to kind of step back into a situation like this, where it's sometimes being a little sarcastic and trying to impart a little bit of humor is very relieving. It kind of eases your tension a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not to make light of this situation. It's not to make light of your pain or anything, but it's just a little it's just a little relief. It's a little release. You know what I mean?
I mean, for myself, it's something that I appreciate.
Okay, fair enough.
I like when anyone can take a situation like that and turn it back into that little bit of relief. Sure. I feel like it does alleviate some of the tension and exhaustion that can come from too much grief. Sure. Or any bad negative energy on bad thoughts, or in their case thinking about something so sad, right? Just to be able to have a little bit of sense of humor, I appreciate that. Yeah,
being able to toss out great how helpful is this? You know what I mean? It's it definitely at times like this it really, I feel like it helps. Because it's, when we do get to these scenes that are a little heavier, I don't know, I do find myself worrying more. Yeah. And not necessarily oh, I hope people like it. It's not necessarily quite that. Yeah. Because first and foremost, I want to make sure we like it. Yeah. Right. I want to make sure, first of all, I want to make sure you like it. Yeah. And then I also...
Are you flirting with me?
I am flirting. Oh. First of all, I want to make sure you like it. And then also, it's for me too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's, and as much as I hope that they're well received, I get more anxious. I don't know, I guess to be misunderstood. I guess you put it really well with that. That, sometimes I found, when doing emotionally heavy scenes, I'll write something that makes a lot of sense to me, but that doesn't quite read exactly the way that I'd hoped it would. Yeah. And sometimes I really don't realize until I get the response what I even worded poorly about it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or I used shorthand that made sense to me. I don't want to say culturally, but shorthand that to me made sense based on my own past experiences, I guess. Yeah. Being rooted in my own past experiences, what I wrote makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. But then I'll get a response back that's oh, I don't get it. Yeah. What is this? Or why was this phrased this way? And it's oh, okay, I have to think a little more critically about the way that I present information. And I feel it all the more strongly when a scene carries a lot of emotional weight and also is important to me. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. You too, Scully?
Yeah, he really feels a way to that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thanks for looking out. So, you know what I mean? So when it comes to these scenes, I get extra anxious, I guess, to hope that I'm conveying myself in a way that reads at least more universally than not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I guess I'm relieved to be on this end of it.
Yeah.
I'm relieved that I'm pretty happy with the scene so far. I mean, we're not done with it yet, but I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm pretty relieved also for a little bit of relief of that tension.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, with the benefit of the room to be a little more humorous, I feel more comfortable with the rest of the scene.
Yeah, it gives a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of tension relief.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel that same way. Okay. I do feel a lot of that similar kind of like weight of even how something gets received, even as I'm not the writer.
Sure.
Like,
but
I do...
You're involved in that process.
Yeah, I do help out with that. I feel as though sometimes even my expressions from the artist's perspective...
Sure.
Sometimes I do hear that I get the immediate feedback that I want.
Sure.
And sometimes someone will like comment something that they see in the expression. Yeah. And I'm a little baffled because it's not something I intended.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, it'll be so on the head that I'll be like, oh wow, that's like crazy that they did understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then sometimes I'm just like, wow, I didn't even realize that I got across that. But then there's other times where it's like, so many people have such a different reaction to an expression.
Sure.
And I think maybe that might be even culturally. Maybe that might even just be like in your own experience on who you know.
Now that you say that, I have noticed that too. I guess when it's a pretty like... To think of it that way, when a lot of people have the same consensus about what they're reading on an expression, but it was an unintended thing, to me, I feel like that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's when the page takes on a life of its own that exists outside of what we make.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When the general consensus in response to a page is like, oh, I read off of his expression that he's, like, hurt or something, and it's like, oh, maybe that hadn't been intended, but like I could see that.
Yeah.
Now as I look back at this page, I could see that. Yeah, that's interesting, and it doesn't necessarily change the writing. It's not like I adjust. I write the chapters in bulk. You know what I mean? So
this scene's already been written out.
Yeah. So when I go to sit down to write the chapter, I write the entire chapter, and the response to any of the pages doesn't usually change much.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that, but like it changes my reading of my own page.
Yeah.
Which I think, I don't know, it gives it a life that exists outside of just what we make. And I think that's really interesting.
I do agree.
I like making art that involves
creative thought.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It involves like community interpretation just as much as it involves artist intention.
Yeah.
I guess. And it's definitely like the way people have read, like Hebert, for instance, the way people have read his actions have made me think about him differently too.
Yeah.
On top of what I intend for him.
Yeah.
But then also make me double down on my core thoughts of him in order to more effectively communicate what I'm going for with him. And I don't know, it's just like a kind of, I wouldn't call it 100% collaborative, but it definitely takes on a life outside of just inside my own head.
Yeah, it tells you what's important for you to emphasize in order to get across the point that you intend with someone.
For sure. While also kind of adding on to my thoughts, too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like giving me new thoughts that might not have occurred to me in the first place.
Yeah.
Usually it doesn't change the story.
Yeah.
But it does make me think differently about it, which I don't know. I just feel like it's very expansive.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting way of thinking things.
Yeah.
And I like it because I think if I were writing in a complete vacuum, it would feel less interesting to me.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I actually really enjoy seeing what people's interpretations of something are.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, especially with, for me, expressions, I like to observe people. I observe people constantly.
Sure.
And I like to watch for nuances of expression.
Sure.
Especially. Like, I like seeing what someone's face does in like a brief moment in response to something.
Like micro-expressions.
Yeah, micro-expressions. I really enjoy analyzing it. And I think in the case of like characters, I like really showing a micro expression. And sometimes I'll see people not even understand the like micro expression that I put in there. But sometimes I really enjoy when someone nails it so hard that they don't even like hesitate to just say like, oh wow, he clocked that, or wow, he actually felt that, he was pained by that. Yeah. And one character that you even mentioned that I actually really like, Hebert gets a lot of micro expressions because he's one of the few characters that does have a very surface person. Sure. And then his deep thoughts personality.
Yeah, he's kind of a liar.
Yeah.
He lies a lot. So his face kind of gives him away a little bit beyond what he says on the surface.
Yeah. And he's very sad. He's a sad boy. He's such a sad boy for how positive energy he is. Sure. And I really enjoy getting to show his micro expressions in moments and how much he actually does observe about everything and everyone around him.
I should clarify, I don't mean he's a liar. Like, he's not, like, morally a liar. Yeah. It's more so that he is projecting more positivity than he actually feels. That's more what I mean. I always forget that word has, like, really awful connotations. Yeah. I
know exactly what you mean, but I also understand, like, that does come across that
he's socially, he's socially a liar. He's not, like, he doesn't lie about, like, events. He lies about his feelings. Yeah. That's more what I mean.
He's an actor, and it comes down to he spends his entire life just still acting.
Yes, exactly. All right. That's the end of this video. Yeah. If you made it to this point, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
It means a lot to us. Have a good one.
Have a good one.